Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Gondor here in the editing suite. For those watching YouTube, you can see I've got the editing up in the background. This week's podcast was riddled with technical difficulties. We had issues with Joel dropping in and out, and somehow, not sure how, and mistake by me, I know for sure, but the rest of it, not quite sure. We managed to have myself and Fennan on mute for about 10 minutes of the podcast. So normally I try not to overly edit the podcast. I like to give it to you raw, but this week we have had to have some major edits for the first 10 minutes. I'm going to try and keep as much in as possible. The main thing that you missed was us introducing this week's special guest, Cian O'Leary, and I'm going to try and keep his stuff in. You won't be able to hear all the questions we asked, but I don't want to remove his answers. I will try and edit in the questions if I can remember them. But yeah, I really hope that you can still enjoy this week's episode. Give it a listen. It's only the first few minutes that I made this mistake on, and otherwise, Joel, what have you got to say?
Play the jingle, Mug.
Okay, so at this point, we were apologising for skipping last week's episode. Morgan was sick, and I had that football game, the Djurgården game. Morgan also took this opportunity to introduce myself, Gondor, himself, Mayhem,
not too bad.
and Cian, a special
good couple
guest.
Of weeks. I mean, you stole my thunder last week by getting in.
Otherwise, he then moved
you know?
on to ask a little bit about the background of Cian and football, and I will directly cut straight to that. Cian, where do you come from?
From the wonderful city in the north of England called Manchester. So yes.
Morgan then went on to ask Cian, what football team do you support?
Morgan, I just told you I was from Manchester. That should answer your question. No, I'm a blue. I'm a blue. Manchester. Born and bred a blue. So yeah, I spent many days at Main Road as a kid. Climbed over the wall a few times. Had a season ticket there until the kids got too old to carry over the turnstiles. So yeah, City fan.
It was at this point that I realised we had been muted and was trying to fix it. So for the next approximately 30 seconds, it involved us dropping in and out of the call and you being unable to hear anyone in the Discord chat. So we're going to push forward a little bit and continue on. So if you are watching the YouTube edit, this will have many cuts right now, and I apologise for that.
Let me try and join on the PC. It might be a little bit better instead of doing it on the phone. But
All right, I don't know how far I got, but anyway, Main Road, yes, yes, Main Road in Moss Side, wonderful football, old-fashioned football ground. Joel's gone again. So yeah, I had a season ticket there for many years, carried the kids over the turnstiles back when we were allowed to do that, and then moved to the City of Manchester Stadium. Got a bit more difficult then. We kind of got a bit more modern, and it got very expensive. So unfortunately, I was priced out of the game as the kids were growing up. But thankfully, been able to go back a few times over the last year, which has been nice to go home. Yeah, I was there when we were shite. There's a song about that. We do, yeah. We also sing, we never win at home and we never win away. We don't give a beep because we're all beeped up. MCFC. Okay. Yes, we're proud of being shit, and when we were shit. And also, one of the major things about City fans now of my age is we were there when we were crap and not winning any games, but we were there and there were 30,000 of us there in the second division. And now it's nice that we're one of the best teams in Europe, coming from playing away at Gillingham on a Tuesday night, or a long trip to Grimsby, or getting knocked out of the cup by Blackpool. Lee Bradbury from Portsmouth. We signed him for $2 million, and he was like our superstar, and we got relegated the next year. I think we used to celebrate when we stayed up. And then the first year that the Arabs brought the club, we were singing "We're going down with $1 billion in the bank," because we never believed that we'd even stay up. There was three players signed that will go down in history, and actually 2 of them are statues outside the Etihad now. David Silva, Vincent Kompany, and Sergio Aguero. So they were the first 3 to come in under the Arab money. And what 3 good buys. It's at the same time United signed Phil Jones. And that was when it all went wrong for them. We signed Sergio Aguero on the same day United signed Phil Jones. And that was things went from strength to strength from there. The noisy neighbours were partying all night long.
Me again, still in the editing studio. I've tried not to get involved too much from this side of things and just let Cian waffle on without the questions, but at this point I do need to say Morgan asked him about the money that Newcastle came into this season and his thoughts on how they will do with that.
This might sound like a joke, but they need to move their training ground to London. And I say that because I think they will find it so difficult to sign world-class players to go and live in the northeast of England. And that's no disrespect to anybody from Newcastle or Sunderland or Middlesbrough. But players like Lewandowski, who they could get in the summer, he doesn't want to live in Newcastle. He wants to live in London. Manchester is easier because we have Liverpool down the road, which is like 40 minutes down the road, and there's a little community in Hale, in Altrincham, or Hale Barnes, shall we say. So I think they'll find it really difficult to get world-class players. I think Newcastle's best route is to invest in youth, and that's a 10-year project.
Final addition from me, guys. This point I did manage to fix the audio issues. Joel, I do believe, does not drop out anymore, so service resumes as normal. Apologies for all the technical difficulties in this. I hope it hasn't been too much, but you've still got the rest of the podcast with no issues from here on out. Enjoy it.
Yeah, without a doubt. I remember we were talking about the same thing when the Newcastle happened. The main name that was linked with Newcastle was Borussia Dortmund's own Erling Haaland. Where it was the same thing, like, you move your training ground to London, he'll take 200 grand a week. He trains in Newcastle, he's going to be looking almost double that sort of money.
I just think it's going to be difficult for young South Americans or Spanish, coming from such a different culture, to go to Newcastle, because there isn't such a big expat community of South Americans up there, or even Spanish. Whereas if you're in London, Manchester, Manchester or Liverpool, for starters, you have other players from those countries who'll put their arm around you. And regardless if you play for Liverpool or City or United, they're all friends. They all live in the same area. They look after each other, and they all fly to the international games on the same private jet. Similar in London, these international players, they take one flight out of London, and all the players in London for Spain or for Brazil or Argentina, they all fly on the same jet to their international games. Whereas if you're up in Newcastle, you don't have that support network around you, I don't think, and they would have to really, really build that support network before they could attract these young kids, like Julian Alvarez, for example, coming from River Plate in Argentina. He's going to come to City in the summer. There's no way in a million years he will go to the northeast of England with a gamble that they're going to sign other players from Latin America. And I think it's really, really difficult for them. It will be really difficult for them. I think they may get ageing mercenaries, like, for example, Lewandowski or Ozil or someone like that, who just wants to make a few quid. But that's not going to build a club. United tried to do that over the last 3 years, and it doesn't work. You need to build a team. Don't just buy individuals, because it won't work for them. So to answer your question, Morgan, I think it's going to take them 10 years if they do it properly.
Absolutely. What do you make on that stance, Joel? Obviously mentioning moving the training facilities from Newcastle to London. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think they'll struggle. They'll not have the attraction, obviously, of the limelight. I think, like Kim was saying, there is that pull from London. Not even the support network. It's living in the capital. The fact that it's a beating heart. London never stops, and I think people are more pulled in by that. But at the same time, if they scout right, they're going to get people. They're going to get world-class players that will go there for money. Kieran Trippier. You can't tell me that Kieran Trippier, after the World Cup he had and the European Championships he had playing in the final, didn't have better offers on the table than Newcastle. And he can go on as many podcasts as he wants, Kieran Trippier, and tell them it wasn't money orientated why he went to the northeast. But that's 100% the reason he's there. There's absolutely no reason to bin knockout stages of the Champions League for a grudge match against Everton at St James's Park. So they will get some. I think they need to completely not even invest in youth. You've seen what City have done there, like the training facilities. It's built all the way up. It's invest in northeast talent. Get Geordies back playing for Newcastle. They've had this ethos down the years where it's been Alan Shearer or even the Longstaff brothers in recent times. They've had proper northeast boys coming through there, and they'll rally behind that. But I don't think it'll be as quick as City.
That's terrifying, isn't it?
I think he's gone again.
Well, while we're dealing with this little technical difficulty, I should apologise to everyone for the first few minutes of the stream. May or may not have forgotten to connect up the microphone correctly.
Great.
They've been hearing the guest, though. That's the important thing, right?
But go figure that it's when we do get a guest on that everything wants to go to fucking shit. Ridiculous. But look, we'll get back to Joel when he's obviously connected back into Discord. But Stu, you went to go see some football last Monday.
I did. We don't have to talk about it too much if you don't want to. I mean, last Monday was fantastic, but ever since, not so friendly for me.
Not so friendly for you?
No. Djurgården won the opening game of the season 3-1, put us second in the table after one game, and we should have ended the season there, if you ask me, because we lost to a no-name team this weekend.
Are you serious?
Yeah, 100%. We lost to Mjällby.
They've just come up this season from the Superettan, which is the Swedish Championship, for those who are not familiar with Swedish football.
So did Jan Mjällby play for Liverpool?
It was Jan Mjällby that played for Liverpool. It was, yeah. Wow, that's a name for the books.
So yeah, at the moment, the only positive I've really got about Djurgården is we're still above Icor.
After 2 games.
After 2 games, don't care, we're still above them. Biggest negative, of course, I'm sure Cian's very happy about this. Hammarby are sat top after 2 games.
Oh, for
2 victories.
And in the semi-final of the Svenska Cup, I think, as well.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, we got knocked out of that and all.
Oh, so not fun to be a Djurgården fan this week.
When is it ever? Let's face it. No, but, still plan to go to more live football. Still plan to get more game time in.
Yeah. Well, that was actually going to be the original plan last Monday, was that me and Stu were going to go to the Djurgården Degerfors game, come home, zip back home, and then jump on and do the podcast. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do any of those things. At least you still got to go to see the game.
Oh, yeah, and I felt horrible the next day.
Horrible in what way?
I'm pretty sure I put back 6 or 7 beers without eating.
Come on.
So that was a tough one for me. And a shot. And I hate doing shots.
Yeah, no, shots aren't fun. Cian, do you look to be going to... You going to go to any Swedish games this season?
Good question, Morgan. Good question. I missed the best one. That's the first game Hammarby play in Stockholm. It's always the best. They start in the middle of Stockholm and nobody goes to the ground. Everybody starts in the city centre and everybody walks together. The Hammarby Tåg or the Hammarby train. That's the opening game. So I've missed that, unfortunately. So the answer to your question, I hope so. Yeah, I hope when the weather gets a bit better here in Stockholm. I don't particularly like going to football in freezing temperatures and snow going sideways as we've had earlier this week.
Yeah, we actually have. The weather's been manic this week. As we've gone into April, we're still getting snow and sleet.
It's third winter.
Third winter? There's no such
No.
thing as third winter.
There's this whole thing in Sweden about the seasons. You don't have 4 seasons in Sweden. You have winter, then you have full spring, then you have winter, then you have mud season, then you have winter, then you have spring, then you have summer, then you have fall, then it goes back to winter.
Yeah, stop caring about 10 seconds ago. Third winter, my arse. Weather's just
we should be in
here.
spring now, though.
We should be.
So it's just going to be rain and cold. No more snow. Touch wood.
Going to get warmer though. That's a good thing.
It will do.
I spent 2.5 hours on my bike today, so that it wasn't so bad. I could still feel my feet for the first time this year.
But you were actually looking to go skiing this week, though, Cian. Is that still on the cards for you?
No, because the sun is shining and I can ride my bike now.
That's fair enough. But
Fed up with snow.
I thought with the sunshine, though, it wouldn't have made the roads as icy, the pavements as icy.
Yeah, but it's nearly 4 hours north, Morgan. You've been there. If it's sunny down here like it is today, up there it's still ice and snow and winter boots and bits and bobs. And I just had enough of winter.
It makes sense. And sometimes when it's sunny, if the temperature's still not quite right, it actually makes it more icy than less icy.
Yeah.
I'm all done with winter.
I think we all are.
Yep.
Definitely think we all are. What's the weather like in Belfast, Joel?
Shit.
Lovely Irish weather.
Yeah, no one else does. When I left my house the other day, it was 6:30 in the morning. It was ice. It was like frosty. By the time I got to work, it was sunny. And we had rain and we had snow. And then by the time I was walking home, it was sunshine again. So God knows, mate, it's all over the place. But keeps you on your toes, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does. Literally.
I'm going to England on Thursday, so I'm expecting that sort of weather.
God love you.
Yeah, go on. Cian, why are you going to England? What's one of your main things you're doing?
I'm going to go to the cup match, City Liverpool. I've decided that today.
Oh, kept that under wraps, didn't you?
No, you told us at the pub yesterday.
I don't remember hearing that.
Saturday afternoon, back at the Etihad.
You might as well fly into London. There's no trains, mate.
No, it's at the Etihad. It's semi-final. Oh no, it's in London.
Yeah,
it's in London.
Yeah,
it's right. Yeah.
look at him. He's starting to panic. He's like,
Etihad last week.
Still planning on going?
Well, I got my tickets now, but we'll see.
You'll end up cycling there.
Oh no, that's too far.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. Speaking of title-winning teams.
Oi, champions. Come to the champions.
No, not you. I'm talking about the champions of Scotland, because that's going to happen after what we've seen this week from Celtic. Joel, you must feel like you're on cloud 9 at the moment. And when I mean 9, that means you've scored 9 goals in the last 2 games. What a week it's been.
Mate, what a couple of weeks it's been.
Couple of weeks even, yeah.
Only, like I said, only dampened by the fact that you had to take sick. You be shite back.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, but obviously, if we revert back to the third absolute felt completely and utterly sick. I didn't fancy us at all. Just couldn't eat before the game. But one down, and it had to be him as well. That wee Welsh bastard, Morg, I swear. See when he puts it in and he runs away with his hands out. I was cursing the whole country, so doesn't it? Potentially.
I'm not surprised when you started. I saw the game and
Ad Visions of him scoring, right? And fast forward to October or whatever it is, we beat Ukraine because come on, once everyone stops feeling sorry for them, we're pumping them to go to the World Cup, and then him popping up and dumping us out of the World Cup. I couldn't take Aaron Ramsey scoring in this game and then winning, and then him turning up and putting Scotland out of the World Cup. God knows what other celebrity would have died as well if he'd have scored another goal. For fuck's sake, poor Doc Cotton from EastEnders got it after he scored. But 50,000 of them absolutely wrapped up in all their bile and pish, and they're one up in 3 minutes. And I was worried, not going to lie, absolutely petrified. Step forward, the second best Australian man that I've ever seen behind Ange Postecoglou, and Tom Roddick, levels it up. And then I think we took control of the first half. Can't really remember Joe Hart doing much. The game was sort of played in the middle of midfield. And then towards the end of the half, Cameron Carter-Vickers scores. I think we deserved it. Maeda should have maybe had a penalty. We probably should have scored another one. But I think
that was a penalty.
The second half,
that definitely was a penalty.
A lot of people have given me mixed reviews. I am maybe looking at it from, with green tinted specs. I thought it was a penalty, but a lot of people have said that they didn't. So, I think it's one of those 50-50 ones. If it was your team, you'd be calling for it all day long. In the second half, the defence was incredible. Carl Starfelt has took pelters since he's come here. As a bomb scare, as being shaky, and him and Cameron Carter-Vickers were colossal, stood up to it, absolutely massive. It was a huge victory. The first time they've lost at home domestically for 3 years. Incredible for us to get the result there. And then we had to back it up this week, and we backed it up. It's a tight game in the end.
Yeah,
just a 7-0.
Yeah, just a 7-0. Yeah, if you didn't see it, Stu, yeah.
No, I didn't see
it. St Johnstone.
So we put ourselves in a real strong position now. Obviously, with the cup here on the weekend, and if we win that, then we're going for our fifth treble. In 6 seasons. So incredible consistency. Obviously, last year was a horrible season, but we've bounced back like all great teams do, and it's time to kick on. I think that the next sort of task now is, this team's now getting compared to the Rodgers teams and even the O'Neill teams. I think that the next step is to go and do something in Europe. Really sort of roll the years back, and sort of create that fortress that Celtic Park used to be. And it's tough now, obviously. City are spending whatever they are on Julian Alvarez. We won't even get that as a budget, so it's tough to compete. But I think that's where we've got to look to get to. You've seen other teams, the likes of Salzburg and some of these other teams that recruit really, really well. They've brung Haaland through and these other players. So I think that's got to be the aim now, recruit well, and try and get back to some kind of... Obviously, Rangers play midweek here and they've got a chance of getting in the Europa League semi-finals. I think that's probably our level. We win the league, we go straight into the Champions League as well. So it'd be nice to be back in that competition, even if we are getting scalped by the likes of Barcelona. But it'd be nice to hear the music again.
Without a doubt.
It's a strange format next year as well for the Champions League, isn't it?
It's do you know what? Because we've been nowhere near it. I've sort of blindly not looked at it, but all I know that is if they were to win, I don't want them to win by the way tomorrow, but if they were to win, we'd go into pot 2. So if they win on Thursday, we would go into pot 2, and that's about as much as I looked into. I don't want to look too far ahead and sort of jinx it once we're in the competition, and I'll start to look. But no doubt Celtic could get Barcelona, as we always do, and then some other juggernauts. But to be back in the big time, I'd be It'd be brilliant, right?
I don't think he will. I'm not. I didn't look at it properly, but the way the Champions League next year, it's trying to combat the Super League that they proposed, which will mean that Barcelona won't play people from pot 2 or 3 or 4. That's similar City, Bayern Munich, Paris Saint-Germain. We will all play each other at the beginning of it in a league format, and then teams who finish third and fourth in some of the leagues will play more. The idea is to try and quell this enthusiasm for the Super League. So UEFA have sort of revamped it for next year, which it's also to stop big clubs complaining as well, particularly for big clubs from Spain and England going off to, well, we won't be going to Russia next year, but going off to deepest, darkest Russia and winning 15-0. That's what starts to annoy people. Long trips to Russia and winning the game 6-7-0.
I think that they always try this. UEFA, like every sort of once every decade, they take the Champions League and they do something with it. I was listening to someone was talking about a podcast. They were talking about when Liverpool went close or whatever, and they beat Real Madrid, and it was like 2 group stages or something.
Yeah.
I must have just suppressed this like some bad memory. Because what I'll imagine will happen with this format is it'll probably be around for a couple of seasons. They'll realise that actually group stages was probably better. No way that there's any appetite anymore in England. That the clubs, obviously, that the owners want to leave. You know, they showed their hands, but you know the fans stood up and rebelled against it. So I don't think any of the owners actually have the courage to try and create the stepway. There's big clubs in Spain and Italy that's still well on board, but you see how many they wanted to take from England. I think they hold the key. Germany as well. Germany have a great format. You know, that 51% fan-owned stuff. That's the format that should be reverberated around the world. Yeah. Fans should have that amount of say. But I think if you can't get Bayern Munich, you can't get Man City, Man United. You know, you can't get even Arsenal. You know, I mean, debatable as to whether, but they've got that history. If you can't get these clubs in, then I don't think there's any real sort of product there. You've just got Real Madrid and Barcelona that need it for the amount of debt that they're piling into.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on this Super League then? Do you think that would work?
No, I think they showed their hand and they didn't expect. If you look at the Glazers, Levy, you know, the money that's come into City, you know, Roman Abramovich when he was there, these guys have just done whatever they've wanted for the last 12, 15 years, and there's been no pushback. They've said what they want. They've acted as what the fans haven't done. And I think Glazers have been taking the dividends out of United for how long? You know, taking money away from the club, and you know the fans always protest, but there's never really any substance to it. So when everyone stood united against them, I think they sort of realised that it wouldn't be accepted. There's certainly, like, Europeanly, like in Italy, that the money problems, and in Spain with the amount of money that Barcelona and Real Madrid are rumoured to be in debt, 100% they would do it. They'd leave in a heartbeat. But I think the way that European football is and the strength at the moment that England has, you know, the fact that Chelsea are in a quarter final, City are looking good in their one, Liverpool looking good in their one. So the strength that English football has on a European stage, if it was going to be that Super League, it would need to take 5 or 6 of the teams from England. And I think the fact that the fans have stood up kills that ideology. You know, they'll probably regurgitate the idea in a decade when everything's calmed down and try and go again. But for now, I think the game's safe. You know, there's a lot of talk from a lot of ex-players now about bringing in an independent regulator into the game to stop stuff like this happening. So I think a lot of people would be all for that, to try and protect the English game, because you know, those top 6 are ready to just dip and leave it to the others to carry the Premier League. So I think there needs to be some kind of security brought in to safeguard against them doing it again.
I think as a City fan, they do need to revamp the Champions League. It's sometimes it becomes boring, and that's not being cocky, because I'm a Blue, and we win games, a lot of games in the Champions League now. For teams like Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, Chelsea, Liverpool, the Champions League doesn't really kick off until the next
quarterfinals.
Even this round of games, we could all pick we could all pick the winner. Let's put it that way, of the quarterfinals. We know that Liverpool are going to win their tie, Chelsea are going to win their tie, City will probably beat Atletico if they move the bus a little bit.
The bus is a tank.
My point is, they need to make it a bit more interesting for the big clubs. And, City haven't played Juventus in 3 or 4 years. We haven't played Barcelona in 3 or 4 years. City should be playing Juventus and Barcelona and Real Madrid and Bayern Munich every year. Or Chelsea should be playing them, or Liverpool should be playing all those teams I just mentioned. But Liverpool could go 4 or 5 years without playing Bayern Munich, Juventus, Paris Saint-Germain, and just keep winning the Champions League by playing Barcelona and Real Madrid, or playing Chelsea and City, if you know what I mean.
I think they could certainly structure the draw. Definitely, I think if you're playing these teams every single season, I think it dilutes it every bit. If you played Real Madrid every year, would there be that same electricity when they were coming to the Etihad? I know what you're saying. Like, of course, City and Barca, you're going to run over the teams that are in pot 4. But you boys get to play, at the final stages. That's when it kicks off. It's a tournament. It's a journey. But at the same time, how many of these big teams have gone years without winning it? And then there's always those magical moments where you never see it coming. Like Lyon, when you got knocked out to Lyon, or when Sheriff go to the Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid.
Or we can even mention like Ostersund when they blitzed the Europa League for one season.
Yeah, so I understand that obviously there's not the same appeal once you play, in a Champions League final and you're 90 minutes from winning the thing, having to come back and travel, to the darkest parts of Europe to get a result in the group stage isn't what the big teams want, but ultimately their result and their prize at the end of it is playing in those latter stages. And I'm the same. Like I watched the back end of the City game, but if it was a semi-final, then I'd probably watch the whole thing. You'd think City should get past Atletico. You think it is almost a foregone conclusion, but I think there's something a little bit special about City. Sorry, City haven't played Juventus for 3-4 years, and if City played them now, you'd scalp them as well. I don't think they're in a good place, but if they were to come back, I think there's that electricity that comes. Whereas if you're to play them every season, it dilutes it a bit.
It's kind of like with the Premier League as well, a little bit. When you expect, you have your top 4, top 6 every season, and you feel like seeing the atmosphere at these big games like City United or Liverpool United, Chelsea Liverpool City. It's it's very rare to sort of find something like a true Champions League atmosphere where the full ground is in full song, where it's just so familiar to them. And it feels like now that UEFA are trying to now have that same sort of impression on the whole of Europe itself. And this is why people rebelled against it, is because it was purely because of the concept is that we don't constantly want to see the top teams go against the top teams all the time.
You've also got to take into account that those smaller teams that will wind up in pot 4, how you were saying, Cian, about how often do you see like Man City play Juve, Man City play PSG these days? How often do you see these teams that you've never heard of play against City? Like, for them, and I know as a City fan it's hard to think about that, but for them, that's the biggest game they'll ever see in their lives. Like, that is a game they'll remember forever. If you take that away from them, then they're just going to be playing other no-name teams that they don't really know or they haven't heard of or they don't care about, and they're never going to see the big games.
And this is the thing, I don't want to see the sport that I have grown up to love and adore turn into a franchise. You know, it's such a big part, not just my culture, but all of us here right now. Like, you know, it plays such tradition in our upbringing, in our everyday lives. Like, and we've seen such incredible things happen in football in the past, and then to see, like, you know, to see like the miracle of Leicester winning the Premier League as a prime example. You know, you then separate the top teams who have the backing of their owners, they have the squad, they have the players, they have the money. They have the money, they have the caliber. You know, it sort of takes what is just the miracle of football away from the game. And I know, like, you know, it's easy to say it when you support a top club like Liverpool or City, when, you know, you're looking at the fixture list and you're going, yeah, we'll walk through these lot. But then, I mean, I guess, you know, I don't know. I don't know what it is from your perspective. You know, maybe you do want to see City play teams week in, week out and think, oh, I don't know what to expect here. And so, like, you know, it's just, you know, like, because, you know, that's what makes football such an amazing sport and part of our culture, is because, you know, it's full of surprises. That's why they say football's a funny old game, because, you know, I mean, I'll get to Cardiff in a moment, but I mean, to see, like, prime example, to see the performance from 2 weeks ago to what I saw this past weekend was night and day. And it's, you know, it's so identical with teams in general, like, you know, where, you know, like, it all comes down to who really shows up on the day.
I mean,
I think at the same time, you know, I think UEFA had to do something because, you know, these top teams nearly broke away. So I understand the format. I understand why they're trying to pin this up and display it as like an alternative. I think to prioritize those games, they'll lose a little bit. They'll probably be great for the first, you know, like all the teams that haven't played each other for years, you know, and getting to go at them and really see who's the best in Europe. Because, you know, City could go all the way to the final and have a favourable draw, not really play anyone. So I guess that's the luck of the draw. So I understand the other side of it too. But just where we are at the moment, like if we were to get into the Champions League for the first time and you don't get like a couple of glamour ties, like what's even the point? If we go out because we're going out to sort of mid-tier teams that are decent, like you go out to like Slavia Prague and these kind of teams, what's even the point? You may as well just do the normal Celtic route and get bumped in the qualifiers by some random Hungarian team and then scrape into the thing. If we don't get to go and experience, you know, the Bernabeu or go to the San Siro and have these big glamour ties, it's not our level. You know, the Champions League is not. You know, if you have a couple of good results that we cling on to, like fuck, you know, everyone knows Tony Watt's name because he scored that goal. Or you know, we play a British team. Like we had a couple of good games against City there a few years back where we drew each game. Got a really good game up at Paradise where we drew 3 each. It's a big nights for us because we're just not on that level. And you know, you relish that underdog story. And the same point, if UEFA didn't give an alternative, how long would it be before these guys regrouped and come again with a different plan of attack?
Here is the alternative, and there's pages and pages and pages on the UEFA website, but I managed to pull these little facts away. It's going to increase to 36 teams from 28, so there's going to be an extra 8 teams in the Champions League. You're only going to play 4 games. You will not play a team twice. And then there will be 8 groups. The top 8 teams will go to the next round. And then the team that finishes 9th in your league will go to a playoff. And then the team that finishes 24th in the all 8 groups combined will go to the Europa League. And then it just gets even more confusing after that. So you won't play... Basically, you won't play home and away anymore.
But that's the thing
you
with
ain't-
UEFA as well, is that if they were to take this idea and run with it, they could make it work. But they don't seem to want to. They always seem to try and make the most complicated route, and they're always changing things. So just as you're getting used to an idea, like the away goals as an example, everyone knew the away goal rule. It added a little bit of excitement to a game, I felt. I don't know if you guys felt differently, but to me, the away goals meant that when you were playing away, it changed the impact of the game drastically. Like, there was so much more excitement to the game. And then they scrapped it.
Yeah, look at Atletico Madrid against City. They had no intention of trying to score a goal.
No,
not at all.
And that just, it completely changes the dynamics of the Champions League. One small change like that. But UEFA are constantly going to keep modifying and adapting and changing from this to that to this, just to keep the money coming in. And it just, I mean, football is one of the most corrupt games in the world, and they make more money by going to what people want. If more teams say, hey, let's get rid of the away goals, here's a bit of money, they're going to do it.
Quite frankly, so no, getting rid of the away goal rule was the most ridiculous thing they ever did.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think any passionate and fanatical football fan that watches their team in Europe, in any way, shape, or form would have been for it. Because, like you said, it just kills the first leg stone dead. You got the home team on the attack, and like Cian was saying, that the City game was a perfect example. City and Atletico Madrid just had 2 banks of 5. I think Griezmann was just used as a pawn, as a distraction. He didn't really do anything. So they literally just wanted to get out of there with as little damage as possible, and then they'll have a go when they get back home. They've no benefit if they come out and try and attack and they get caught on the counter attack. What's the benefit?
And so that's going to make the game 10 times interesting in the return leg in Spain. What do you think about that, Cian? Like, do you really feel that it's going to be the case that Atletico score 1, they sit back, they soak up pressure for 120 minutes, and then they
Look for penalties.
Yeah, they.
I think we'll smash him, Morgan. I think any team who's, if what Atletico need to do is they need to come at us, and there's only probably 2 or 3 teams in the world that can have a go at City. Otherwise, you're going to get caught. It's as simple as that. If City pull, like you talked about the 2 banks of 5, they're going to have that. They're going to have to make that a 4 at the back for starters, and that 5 is going to have to turn into a 3. Well, then they're going to have to go. We got Kyle Walker coming back as well. So if they come at us from the wings, we got Kyle Walker on one side and João Cancelo on the other. If they sit with 2 banks of 5, those 2 players are irrelevant. They can't do anything. So it will be in City's favour if they come and have a go. Otherwise, it'll be a 0-0 draw. And if they try to use Griezmann on the break, he had a few chances, but like Liverpool yesterday, Liverpool played a really high line. Now I can't see Atletico doing that, but City caused Liverpool problems over the top. Most of the afternoon. If Atletico try to do that, they're not going to be able to defend it as well as Liverpool are. So I if they come at us, I think we'll win it easy.
Yeah, you're right.
If they sit back again, yes, they could catch us on the break, and if they do, we're in trouble. But they have to score twice, so they got to do that. They might catch us, and there might be one, and then it'll go to penalties. Then that's how they can win it. So I think if they come out and have a go, I'll be really happy. I will be really happy, and I think City will win it easy.
I think the only thing that keeps Atletico in it is in my opinion, they're the best shot stopper in the world of football. I think Jan Oblak is the best shot stopper in world football, and that could be what keeps the score lower. I don't see any football. You can't really predict it. That's why betting companies make all the money. But I don't see a way that this Atletico team beats City by 2 clear goals over 120 minutes. City score. João Cancelo is a freak. like an absolute freak. How that man can play right back and left back and be the best in the. We were talking about Kyle Walker. You can play Cancelo there and whoever you want at left back. The guy is an absolute machine. The fact that I was watching a thing. I was reading something that says the fact that there's someone in Juventus in Turin that thinks it was a good idea to swap Danilo for João Cancelo.
I saw that today.
And me and Cian absolutely brag about Cancelo all the time.
He's unbelievable. Like the boy could. I think when I remember when like Edison. I know that Cancelo's he come over and he took a wee bit to settle in. When Edison come in, there's all this talk about like how the guy could play outfield. Cancelo could play anywhere, and I think he'd be comfortable. Like he's on the ball ability for a defender. He's almost wasted. You almost want to see him go in that Joshua Kimmich mould and just bring him in. Bring someone else into left back. And let him go and flourish as a sort of holding midfielder, spraying the passes. Because what a football player!
He's such a good defender as well, though.
Yeah,
he has he's got his talents going forward. He's so technically gifted. But when you watch him live defending, the amount of covering he does for the centre halves, which you don't see normally, but in every game he's taking 3 or 4 runs across behind the centre halves. And just mopping up, but he doesn't just boot it into Rose Ed like we all do when we run back and cover our mate. This guy is knocking it through the striker's legs. He's nutmegging them, and then he's setting up another attack. He's that good.
I think Pep's waved his magic wand and done what he does with so many. You look at the players that he's brought on. I mean, even when they took Walker from Tottenham. There was a little bit like my brother's a big Tottenham fan. They weren't all that gutted that they lost Kyle Walker because they had Trippier and they had this. And you look what he's turned him into. When Sterling left Liverpool, there was a bit of an uproar, but he was a kid. He can't really score goals. I think he scored like 14 in his last 17 games. When Foden was coming through, he's a bit lightweight. He's now the best English talent in the Premier League. So there's all this debate about Klopp and Pep, and I think we'll not get into it because I'm sure it'll be one-sided at the moment. But
well, I was going to actually say, Stu, would you agree about that? With what we've spoken about João Cancelo?
I'm not.
See if you say Andy Robertson's name.
This is why I asked him. No. This is why I asked you.
No, because I rate Andy Robertson, but I am well aware he's not the best in the league, or even the best. Like
Scottish player in the league. He's not even the best Scottish left back in the league.
That's what I was going to say. It's I love Andy Robertson, but I am well aware that he has his team around him and he plays as well as he does because he's comfortable playing with his team. If he was to move to another club, I don't think he'd be half as good as he is. So
you only have to watch him for Scotland to see that. That's true.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I mean. Like, he'll do bits in a game for Liverpool. He's not like the most consistent either. He can have a worldie of a game, and then the next 2-3 games you don't really see his name or see him on the ball or anything like that. He is a talented player, but he's not the best, and he isn't close to being the best. He's just a good player who knows how to play with his team around him.
I'm so glad you didn't mention Trent either.
Oh, I fucking hate Trent. I swear down, I hate Trent. I think he is overhyped, overrated, and not worth a space in the squad.
What is it about Trent that you really dislike about him?
But a few months ago, like Trent was a player I knew about because I've only really been back into watching football since the pandemic ended. So, quotation marks there, ended. I fell out of football during the pandemic. And not just Liverpool, but Djurgården as well. I didn't really watch any football. But now that it started to end, I've been watching Liverpool games, I've been watching Djurgården games, I've really gotten back into it. And one of the first games of Liverpool that I watched again, I think Trent must have got the ball about no less than 10 times. And every time he got the ball, he passed it to the opposition. Like, no exaggeration, he did not complete a pass in the game I was watching. And then I think they brought Gomez on, and the very first ball he played broke an attack. And to me, if your substitute that comes on for you has a better game, in 20 minutes than you've had in 70, you don't deserve to start. And I'm not saying he's not a good player and that he couldn't earn his place back in the squad. I'm saying he needs to sit on that bench for a while and realise he's not untouchable.
I mean, who do you put in at right back?
Anyone at this stage. Just send a message to the guy. You know, step up your game. Stop passing to the opposition.
Just recall Nico Williams, he's better.
Do that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think me and Joel, we're going to need to take cover right now because I'm gonna let Cian and Stu out their cages after yesterday's big game. City Liverpool finished 2-2.
Lucky Scousers.
Bit of controversy. Go for it.
Just going to put it out here. As the game kicked off, I turned around and said to Cian, I'm calling a draw. And I was right.
Is that it?
No, I'm going to let Cian take the offensive because, I mean, realistically, the game I watched, yes, City probably should have edged it, but they didn't. And so for me, that's fine.
I think you're right. I think you've kind of summed it up there. I think every City fan is pissed off a bit this morning. We feel like we've missed a chance, really. And listening to TalkSport today, lots of Liverpool fans were happy with the point, whereas City fans are not. Particularly for that disallowed goal that was onside. And this is what annoys me about VAR. I have an iPhone, and I zoomed in on. I sent you the picture, Stuart. You know, if you were technically gifted, you could put this on the screen now. But if you zoom in, you can see the kids on side. But why can't VAR zoom in? I don't understand. I don't get how they could say that was offside. But anyway, that's that. But apart from that, you know, Klopp has still never won at the Etihad. So he's done a lot, but he's never won at the Etihad. Still.
There you go. If you're watching now,
that's my technical giftness.
You can see Stuart's technically, just technical giftness, really.
Can you go even closer than that, Stuart? Can you go even closer than that?
No, that's the most.
I think that's the most you can go in.
But yeah, there we are. Now you're saying technically he's onside. I would argue.
Wait, who's
the one they played the ball to?
Sterling
got the ball. Yeah, he's onside. Yeah, he's onside.
So Morgan, you're looking at that picture now. You're sat in Stockley Park, and you're getting paid all this money to be making these huge multi-million-pound decisions. Why would you say that's offside? Because it clearly his hand is what he's gave it on. There's clear daylight between the line they've drawn on the pitch. The kid's boot. I don't know if it's that Van Dijk's boot or Matt, the other guy.
I mean, to be fair, Cian, why are they giving offside for a hand?
Exactly.
Like, you know,
ridiculous.
But I've said this in the podcast before, and I've said this to anyone. VAR is shit. Like, as a Liverpool
it doesn't
fan,
work.
As a Liverpool fan, we get so much advantage out of it. But the only reason you should ever have VAR is, in my opinion, you're tackled on the edge of the box, have a look at it, or a tackle goes in and you want to look back to see if it's a red or a yellow. Who cares about VAR for offside? It takes away the enjoyment of the game. Half the enjoyment of the game is yelling at the refs for a decision that could go any way. When they have VAR and they're able to look at it, you're taking away the ref's decision. Essentially, it's now a computer that's deciding and the ref is just going with what he's told. It's still, they make the wrong decisions, as we're talking about now. But it was much more fun 2, 3, 4 years ago when the ref would make that decision based on him or the linesman, and then we're just like, you've got the argument of, you know, maybe their position wasn't quite correct, they couldn't see exact, there's a reason why they've given the wrong decision, but you can still berate the referee. Now they're, as you say, they're paid so much money and they haven't got an excuse for the poor decisions.
That's enough about VAR. That really annoys me. But going back to the match yesterday, you know, I suppose we're all in agreement. I don't think we need to debate this, but, you know, looking at the stats, City won every single stat. Possession, shots on target, tackles. The only stat that Liverpool won was clearances. He had the most clearances. Every other stat went to City.
No.
But funnily enough, and there's two things I will say about the game yesterday. I think it's good for the Premier League. That was a great advert for the Premier League. It was beamed around the world. It was two elite teams, world level teams, going toe-to-toe. It was like a boxing. In fact, it was like a basketball match at one stage. It was just going from one end to the other. It was so impressive. There was tiny margins for the goal for all the goals. It was tiny margins, no real mistakes. And then the funniest stat I saw today was in the last 4 years, City have amassed 338 points. Liverpool have amassed 337 points in the last in the last 4 years, and there's 1 point between the two teams going down the stretch.
Yeah, I was going to say, after last night's game, we're 1 point behind you in two different areas now.
In the last 4 years, we literally neck and neck.
Joel, who are you backing in this title race, by the way?
City. Liverpool had to win yesterday. Just the run-ins. Like, if you look at who City have got left to play and who Liverpool have got left to play, there's plenty of people that will go to Liverpool to ruin their season. The likes of Man United, Everton, they will be flying to ruin the Scousers' season 100%.
Are we sure about that with United?
What have United got left? What, the Conference League? They'll be bouncing about that. But would they be bouncing about taking a title away from yous? Look, let's be honest. And City have obviously grown and have surpassed United in modern era football at the moment. But who do United hate more? It's not the Sky Blues. It's yous, 100%. Right? And if it's a toss up between Liverpool getting another league title and going close again to United to matching them, or letting City have another one, at the moment, Man United are doing exactly to City what Liverpool did to United. Yeah, come back when you've got 20. Come back when you've got 20. That's the stance United have. They're still miles behind. That's come back when you've won 3 Champions League. All this kind of carry on. But for Liverpool, like you can go again and match them. So who do they pick? 100% they prefer City. So they will be bouncing to ruin your season. And then Everton as well. They would like nothing more than to ruin your season. So it's those kind of crunch games that Liverpool have got that I just think there'll be a twist or a turn. Liverpool can't go to the end of the season and put together another run. I know they've won 9 on the bounce and they've looked superb doing it. I just can't see them replicating that consistency. We know City can, but they can just go bang, 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 not drop a point. And I think Pep's maybe got 1 or 2 years more, and what he'll demand for his legacy at City will be absolute near perfection. So I think they'll win it. There'll not be a lot in it. Probably a few more twists and turns. No one sees City dropping points at Palace or anything like that. But I know they just feel like the team with the killer instinct. Yesterday they probably should have come out. If they come out 4 points clear, it's dead. It's over. The draw keeps it slightly alive, but I think they'll finish off. They have a slightly easier run in, and we just know that they can rattle off, 8 games no ball.
Especially as
I think the Champions League is going to play a huge part in this as well. If City beat Atletico, the semi-final, final of Champions, well, it's semi-final 2 legs that comes at a critical time in the Premier League. So I don't know who Liverpool could possibly get in the next round, but I know City have a tough game against Atletico this week. It's going to be tough. It's going to hurt, and then it's the semi-final of the FA Cup against Liverpool. We're going to have to go again. That's going to hurt. And then it's after those games, I think, it's going to be critical. I think if Liverpool get knocked out of the Champions League, it's advantage Liverpool. But if I would go as far as to say, if City had a choice of swapping the Premier League for the Champions League, I think we'd probably take it as well.
So, if you go through the quarterfinals, you're playing either Real Madrid or Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we go through, we've got Bayern or Villarreal.
That really put a twist on there. Fuck, Stephen Gerrard's done a good job.
So what's the Villa doing there?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so the Champions League, I mean, arguably I would see Liverpool getting through to the final of the Champions League again.
It's just Liverpool's bread and butter, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but yeah.
There's more twists and turns. I disagree with you, Joel. I think United are done. I think it's over for them. I think they've lost the dressing room. It's gone. Nobody wants to be there. Everyone's on the bike. They're going to lose 8, 9 of those starting 11 that last weekend. Just looking, talking to friends who have insight into the club and stuff. Ranić he's going upstairs. Ten Hag,
yeah.
He's kind of making sounds that he doesn't want to go anymore. He can't get assurances from the Glazer family about transfers and everything else. So he wants reassurances. The Pochettino talk has gone quiet. The club is in a state. Ranić has no control over the dressing room. Players don't want to be there. There's no talk about a new manager yet. It's a mess. I think Liverpool are going to absolutely thump them.
Ten Hag's apparently being touted as going to Leipzig now. Apparently that's the story that's broke over the last couple of days, that RB Leipzig could beat United to the signing of Ten Hag.
It wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me. The United job, it's a poison chalice at the moment. It's with the Glazer family, and I think you mentioned it earlier, that they take so much money out of the club every year. The stadium's falling down. Old Trafford's falling down. They need to move. They need to rebuild that stadium. It's going to be condemned by Manchester City Council or Trafford City Council or Salford City Council. Sorry, Salford City Councillor. Basically, and I'm not joking, it's literally falling down around their ears. They haven't redeveloped that stadium in my lifetime. It's literally falling down. They need to fix the stadium, and the Glazers are not paying for it. They need to fix the stadium. Their academy is not winning anything. They have no young players coming through. They're buying young players from Borussia Dortmund, who were City rejects, for 75 million euros or pounds. I can't remember what it was. And Jadon Sancho, he played in the substandard Bundesliga. You don't pay 75 million for a kid from the Bundesliga when your stadium's falling down, when you've got no youth development. Your academy, nobody wants to go to your academy anymore because they're all going to City. It's the place is a shambles. They need to do what Arsenal did. They need to accept that they're not going to be in the Champions League or win trophies for 3 or 4 years, and change the club from the bottom, from the foundations, literally, and build the club back up, because they can't keep doing what they're doing over the last few years, just buying players and not building a team. So I think they're done. I saw them walking off the pitch against Everton. They literally, they don't even talk to each other. It's in contrast to the Liverpool and City teams. They're teams, they're pals, they're friends. And it was nice to see yesterday as well, at the end of the match, all the City and Liverpool players met in the middle of the centre circle, and they all were hugging each other and kissing each other and applauding the crowd. There was no tension there. It wasn't the Martin Keown, Ruud van Nistelrooy situation. It was nice to see. It was a good advert for the Premier League. But
it turns out that Van Dijk and De Bruyne's children actually go to the same school as well. And I know they questioned on that, didn't they?
Exactly, and that goes back to my point with Newcastle. They're all friends. They all live in the same area. It's a big community. But the United players are there as well, and the stories that we're hearing in the newspapers, we all say don't believe what you read in the media, but there's no smoke without fire. There's players in that United team don't speak to each other.
Well, this is the thing. Social media has come so far now, and it's like a go-to source, for everything in life. Never mind just football. And then you're seeing video footage of Ronaldo slapping a phone out of a fan's hand going down the tunnel as well. I mean, of course, it doesn't sound like a great idea when I say it, but at the same time, it just sort of shows how fragmented that club really is from top to bottom.
Especially as we're talking about Ronaldo, who is one of the ones that is touted by the media as being great with the fans and always has time for them, and
He tweeted today, actually, Ronaldo. He said, "I'm really sorry for what I did, and I really, hope you can forgive me. And as a present to you, and me saying sorry, you can come and watch a game at United." That's not much of an apology, is it?
to an Everton fan. I think they'll pass on that.
All right. I'm looking at the time here, and we've spoken about all our teams. But Fennan, Cardiff, what happened? You were excited about cancelling because of your illness, I'm sure. Take us through it.
Right. As you can tell by that slam, I'm still hurting, I'm still wounded from what took place 2 weeks ago. Of course, this Saturday was, I don't know, it was
a Band-Aid.
Yeah, a shit one. And then I got in the shower and it fell right off, really. So, well, like I said, this weekend was actually a positive for Cardiff. We ran out 2-1 winners away at Reading. That was actually a game that I was actually going to look to go to. Like you said, me, you and Cian discussed the prospect of travelling to the UK over Easter break. And so, I was going to go to Reading away, and then we were looking at the idea of meeting up with you, Cian, in Manchester. And if I'm honest, as much as the plane tickets were a bit too expensive for me at the time, and it didn't really sort of jump out at me going home. And so, but anyway, if I'm completely honest, in my head, with the South Wales derby, I felt like we lost that game a week ago. When I say we lost that game a week ago, and I'm sure you boys will vouch for me here, what is the first thing you expect when tickets go on sale for a derby game? This is your biggest game of the season.
Sell out.
You sell out. A week prior to the fixture, and thank God this game was not on TV. It wasn't the early kickoff.
Why not?
It was. I have no idea, Cian. I have absolutely no idea. It was a. It's 4
Because
o'clock
no
out
one in
time.
England wants to watch Welsh teams play football.
Yeah, probably right. But I'm so glad I didn't show it. I'm pretty sure there was highlights on Comedy Central. But no, it wasn't the early kickoff game. It wasn't the late kickoff game. It was a bog standard 4 o'clock kickoff for us, 3 o'clock kickoff for you, Joel. And so, yeah, there were questions raised about that. Like I said, a week prior, and as I mentioned, with social media being such a go-to platform for football, comparing the tweets, Swansea had tweeted that, yep, our away, I know it's their away allocation, it's a lot less than, their home allocation, but they had sold out, they'd packed out, and they were, we want to get riled up for these games, and so, they had all these compilations and all these flashback memories of South Wales derbies. There was none of that from Cardiff. None of that. And I haven't said this on the podcast, but I've said it to other fans and just other football fans in general. We've hands down got the worst social media team out there for a football club. The worst, absolute worst. Yeah, like I said,
I think that's telling, Morgan. If the game's not on TV and it's not a sellout, and then you're saying they have the worst social media team, what's gone wrong with Swansea and Cardiff? Because years ago, it was on the news, the main news, the news at 6 about the South Wales derby. It was always on TV. So, but now it's not on TV and it's not a sellout. What's happened in Wales?
I honestly can't. You were going to say
fans. Cardiff fans tend to only go to games when they have something to win, and at the moment, Cardiff are in mid-table obscurity. There's nothing for them to cheer on.
Well, like you said, you've hit a nail on the head there as well with what I was going to say. And I'm not generalising every fan, because that's not fair. And I know I have family that go to games week in, week out, but there is quite a substantial margin of fans who will. I wouldn't say they wouldn't boycott the game. They just don't. They just didn't bother showing up. They, we'd have a game on Tuesday night, and we'd pack out at just over half the stadium of 32,000. We've averaged attendances this season at around 18,000, and there's still
How much is it per ticket to go to see Cardiff?
It's roughly between. So home tickets are around £25, but then I've been to away games where the tickets have gone up to about 35, 40 odd.
Still not a bad price though.
I don't really know, if I'm honest, because like you said, sorry, Joel.
I don't think ticket pricing keeps you out of this game. I think it shows where the club is. Steve Morrison's brought a wee bit of feel good back. There's been a couple of good performances, and yous are not going down. But that's where Cardiff are this season. Talking about a team, and this is probably something that you've suffered from as well. Your success. See, once you get into the Premier League and you sell all your season books, you've got the wee stick-on glory hunter that don't support Cardiff.
Yeah.
But he would have come along to see the Liverpool and the Arsenal. He doesn't give a shit about Swansea, but he wants to see as the superstars. So you've maybe suffered a little bit about that. That fella that would have come to United game, his mum and dad don't want him to go to the South Wales derby. Having it at 3:00, by the way, in any stage is just irresponsible by the police in Cardiff. If you know anything about this derby, like the city shuts down, it moves one way. To have this game at anything other than 12:00 and allow fans to be in a pub and build up even more than what they normally was just irresponsible, because these are two sets of fans that, if given the chance, would go hammer and tong. And I'm sure South Wales police were not, clapping at the end of this. We're coming off post-pandemic, so maybe they've forgotten a little bit. But this is not a game that. This was a game that me and Morg were talking about going to when we were younger, and Morg's dad and aunt were petrified that we'd be anywhere near the game.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
So it's not having it at 3:00 is irresponsible, but I think they've almost done that as maybe a chance to get some more people in, because they weren't selling tickets. But
that's still on the bucket list, Joel. By the way, that's still on the bucket list. Don't you worry.
100%, man. But I think Cardiff now have got a big summer. Any sort of result from here to the end of the season, just papering over cracks, really. Losing 4-0 to your biggest rivals. The season's going to be remembered for that. So Cardiff have a big summer, big decisions to make.
The thing that just hurts the most about the game, though, 4-0, of course, was just outright disgusting. Like, I've never felt so disgusted and so ashamed of my football club that week, because it just felt like it was one thing after the other. From the first whistle, you could tell that Swansea had turned up with a game plan, and Cardiff just went purely based on how they played in previous fixtures. Swansea like to play such a slow and patient build-up possession game. And what they'll do, as they creep into the opposition half, they'll draw about 2 or 3 players in, and then they'll have Joel Pirro and that Southampton fucking reject Michael Obafemi, who somehow scored 8 and 11 now, peel off the back line. 3 have been sucked in, they're through on goal, they slot across. And that's what the game really felt like. You could call it from yards off.
The thing is, as well, is that after it's happened once or twice, you have to realise what Swansea are doing, even if you haven't watched their games before and seen their game plan. Don't fall for it 4 times.
Well, this is what Morrison came out with as well. He had a very poor post press conference, a very, very poor one. There was even like a meet-up evening during the week with Steve Morrison and Will Vaulks, and what Morrison come out with is that the team were intimidated by the atmosphere and like frozen to the spot and all this bollocks.
No, they're professional football players. They're meant to thrive off it.
Like,
or ignore it.
What have you really told them before we've gone out on the pitch? To say that to the supporters club as well really didn't look good on him. Wasn't impressed with him one bit, and I speak so highly of Steve Morrison because he has come in and he's been a massive breath of fresh air. But but on top of the 4-0 hammering, it was in fact in our 110-year history that the first time that either Swansea or Cardiff have done the double over the other team.
It's going forward, Morgan, because this season's done for you guys now. Have you still got that Malaysian guy as the owner?
We do, and it's funny you mentioned that, Cian. Like, we do have Vincent Tan still, who still runs the club. It's a lot of paper talk at the moment, but apparently there are 3 potential buyers in the club who are interested. It's been something that we've been crying out for years. Like I'm trying to be as impartial as possible here because I have a very strong hatred for Vincent Tan. I'll never forgive him for what he did when he changed the club colours. Like I cannot let that go.
The Bluebirds playing in red.
Exactly, and the thing is, and if Hull City got their way at the time with their owner when they wanted to change their name to Hull Tigers, Vincent Tan would have done the exact same thing with our club. He absolutely would have done. He would have made that club his own, and we would have been known as a franchise. And so, but since then, I mean, he saved the club. He did save the club because if it wasn't for Vincent Tan, we would have gone under.
Does he want to sell?
He wants to sell to someone who he feels comfortable handing the club over to. He's been at the club now for at least a decade. He's, like I said, he has pumped so much money into the club, and to give him credit, he's given us transfer budgets that, Celtic wouldn't even get. We've spent 50 million in our first transfer window in the Premier League under Malky Mackay, and Malky Mackay, I know, name from the closet, so, and this is the thing, and if we talk about those signings of 50 million back in 2013, 2014, a lot of them are such obscure names now. I think if there's one that was really a big hit, was Gary Medel, the Chilean midfielder.
50 mil wouldn't get you a left back nowadays.
Well, not an English one, that's for sure. But this is the thing, then there was Stephen Colker at the time, who was 8 million. Andreas Cornelius, the Danish striker, who was on 49 grand a week and playing in the under 23s because he couldn't keep himself fit. Had a niggling ankle injury and just never fully, recovered from it during his time at the club, and then selling him for peanuts in January. It was an absolute shit show of a season. And then, then to have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer come in and then basically have his very own youth intake in the Norwegian players, and just having a fucking F2 freestyler and Wilfried Zaha come in on loan. It honestly, I know we had such that we had one fantastic moment that season, and I don't know if you'd remember it, Cian. It was when we managed to beat you boys at the Cardiff City Stadium 3-2. No, you don't remember it. No, of course he fucking doesn't. No, of course he does. Of course he doesn't. Fraser Campbell up from 2 corners. Beautiful. What a day that was.
Remember that.
But that was.
Don't remember
that. But that was Cardiff at its finest. It was
So going into the summer then, Morgan, if he doesn't sell, he's not going to give you lots of money, is he? So you're just going to be mid-table next year if you're lucky. So new potential buyers. Is it likely to happen? Because to me, as an outsider, it looks like the club is not selling out a derby, can't sell enough tickets, don't sell any merchandise. Who's going to want to buy the club? What potential has the club got?
This is what I'm thinking.
Arguably, I would say that Steve Morrison has fixed a lot of that issue. He's come in and he's turned a team that you were money favourites to go down this season into mid-table obscurity. And if he does, with the little he had available to him since January, if he's able to do the same again in the summer, then I think you'll start selling out games, you'll start selling merch. As you said, you need to upgrade your social media team. You need to get the tweets out, you need to get the Facebook posts out, the Instagram posts.
But that's a butterfly's fart compared to what we need.
But if you start with the small things, the easy fixes, the rest will fall into place. We've been talking about it with all the big teams as well. Start at the basics that you can fix with what you've got, and then worry about the rest.
Big problem for Cardiff is what they lose in the summer, and that's not selling players. They
Cody Drama.
They lose Drama, they lose Hugh Gill, they lose Tommy Doyle. These boys just go back, and there's absolutely no way, right, that these boys would have felt the toxicity that would have been flowing through that city. This is, Cardiff isn't a big city at all, so every time they'd have gone to the shops, something would have been said. That these boys wouldn't have really been able to leave their house for the last week. Getting a result this weekend would have papered over it a wee bit, but it's a fishbowl down there. Much in the way that it is in Glasgow, and that these boys wouldn't have been able to leave their house without something being said to them. So I don't think that any of these boys would be eager to come back after the toxicity that they would have felt. And then it's who do you replace these ones with? I mean, before those boys coming in January, and Cardiff are in a bad way. So what kind of budget are you going to get?
We won't get
There
one.
isn't really.
We won't get a budget. It will be like it was this past transfer window. It will be purely loan signings and free signings. That's all it will be. And it will be like that until we miraculously find ourselves back up in the Premier League. Morrison seriously needs to stamp his authority in this transfer window. He needs to do everything he can to retain the players we got on loan. I know some of them will be very difficult because of how superbly they played in this campaign.
Like Tommy
Doyle, Cody Drama, like Tommy Doyle he'll most likely be a top half Championship team player next season, if anything, a bottom half Premier League team player.
Tommy Doyle will go out on loan again next year.
Yeah, he'll definitely go out on loan again. But the question is, will City send him to Cardiff again?
If he's playing, yeah.
He is
I
playing.
think the performances that he's been for Cardiff
top
will be
half
higher
playoff positions, or a team like Everton who have really struggled this season and can do with some young, energetic players to try and make an impact.
City won't loan a player to a Premier League team. But the top we talked about the top 4 or 5 in the Premier League, the top 4 or 5 in the Championship, they don't have loan players. Those are all teams now that are fighting the Premier League, or have either been fighting for a while and built a squad, or have been relegated and retained. I think for someone like Tommy Doyle, who he still has ambition of playing in the Premier League, and we still haven't got a striker at City, so he might find himself playing cup games for City next year. If that's enough for Tommy Doyle, he'll stay at City, but I don't think he'll go much further up than mid-table in the Championship in terms of going on loan and playing, because I don't think he's that good yet.
Have a word with Pep.
I
think you need to have a word with Pep here. And I hear Jordan Hugel's on a free in the summer.
I think the likes of Luton Town, they would kill for a Tommy Doyle at the moment. They're in the playoffs scrapping around, but these boys would kill to have a midfielder of that level. So there's all these obscure names. When you look at the Championship, yes, there's the huge names, and the ones that have been the Premier League mainstays for a while, the likes of Bournemouth, Sheffield United. These boys aren't interested in bringing someone in and having them on loan and building them up for a season and giving them back. But the likes of Luton, or Millwall, these boys that are on the periphery.
Good shout.
And again, Luton, Millwall, they're down in London. It's a tough place to earn your keep. They're both working class clubs. They'll get a big sort of induction. Millwall, for all their bad name, Millwall develop a lot of youth, and a lot of people go there. So that could be the kind of place that he's sold on, rather than going to South Wales, unfortunately.
So we can't be more positive, Morgan.
Well, it's, like I said, like I absolutely despise football at the moment, based off of what happened 2 weeks ago. Like, obviously, of course, I'm always happy to be here and talk to you guys and just crack a few jokes and have a good time.
And the Gooners are shit as well now, aren't they?
They are. You know what? Where's Sam when you need him? Sam was he was like our part-time host on the show. I mean, he was a special guest, and then he was not so special guest the following week. And so, yeah, I would have loved to have him right now because he was beaming the last time we had
positive spin, Morg, Wales. So that's not all bad. Gareth Bale, free kicks and all. Special moments. Just try and veer off the club football for a bit, I guess.
No.
But but this is the thing, and there's so much dead wood in the club that we need to clear out as well. And this is where I'm actually going to end it on with Cardiff. When I talk about dead wood, I talk about little wurzels like Leandro Bacuna. Now, I know he's not listening, but I really fucking hope he is. Now, to give you guys a bit of a backstory if you're not familiar with it, Leandro Bacuna put an Instagram post up a couple of days, I think it was like a day or two after the result against Swansea. Now, the context of it, I don't know if you can see it, Cian, but basically it's just a post. He's celebrating his birthday. Leandro Bacuna hasn't featured for Cardiff since the new year.
Since Morrison took over.
No. Morrison was in charge when he was playing. No,
Was he?
Yeah, he was. Morrison came in October.
Okay.
So in that game that he last played, we were against Bournemouth. We were only 1-0 down, looking promising to find a way back into the game. There was 2 minutes added on, and with 30 seconds left of additional time, Leandro Bacuna absolutely hacks down Dominic Solanke on the halfway line, straight red. Hasn't featured for the club since. And so, like I said, I think 48 hours at most after the result against Swansea. And like I said, he's posting, he's basically putting up a post celebrating his birthday. That's not the problem I have with it. It's the caption he's put in the fucking post, right? And I know what he's trying to get across with it, but it's the two emojis he puts right at the end. So he said, he basically says, like, still smile. He says, and I quote, still smiling every day, waiting for the next chapter. And then he goes and puts two football emojis. What that says to me, it puts a doubt in my mind of all, every individual at the club, their attitude and their mentality. And honestly, like, I think we can, from a Cardiff fan perspective and from a lot of Cardiff fan perspectives, we all can strongly accept that he will no longer be at the club for the next season. He'll be the first one out the door in the summer. But when you go and put two, I know what you mean, saying, you're waiting for the next chapter and you're talking about your age. I don't know how old you are now, 42, because you've been around for fucking too long. But then you go and put two football emojis.
That's not old.
For a footballer, it is. I don't care how fucking old Leandro Bacuna is. What I'm saying to you, Leandro Bacuna, good riddance. Fuck off, you little slime ball. Over and out. Right, we're going to start wrap things up anyway. And Cian, as you are a guest on the show, there's a little feature we like to end on, and we call it the Fennan Chronicles. What the Fennan Chronicles is a collection of drunk stories about yours truly. Yes. I don't know if Joel's thought of one. I don't know if you thought of one, Stu. I don't even know if Cian's got one.
Essentially, we take turns to tell a story about a time we've been out with Morgan and he's just gotten a little bit too drunk. And when Morgan gets a little bit too drunk, the stories can be priceless.
I've got my absolute golden goose.
Oh, he's got a golden
last week.
goose. So. Oh, he's got a golden goose. All right,
Do you want me to say a name? Do you want me to say a name, Morgan? Do you want me to see if we can continue with it?
Oh
Say
no!
Sammy Lukes.
You can't say that. You can't say that. We're recording. You can't say that. Well, you got to tell the story now, haven't you?
I'll do the abridged version because Kia may have one that you can add on top. But this is for cancelling me last week, dickhead.
You know, I feel I deserve it. Go on, fire away.
So a bridge version is that we've gone out, we're at the pub, and I've been convinced to go to this nightclub. But when it's me, Morgan, and our pal Joe, and while we're sitting in the pub, these two random girls come up, and they chat away. Joe takes it in his stride and pretends that he's married and has 2 kids. Joe is single and has no kids, but he's taking them down this absolute web of deceit that he's got 2 kids and he's married, and this shit goes on and on and on. But they don't believe him, obviously. Why haven't you got the ring and all this? But anyway, we get to the nightclub. Her little stumpy friend, I can't remember her name, but
God knows.
she was taking a liking to me, and we was like, oh yeah, kind of like whispering, take one for the team. I'm thinking, are you actually serious here, mate? All right, fair enough. We're all friends here, and I mean, I don't know how you describe this girl. She was kind of like a gargoyle with blonde hair, but
spot on.
Mork comes over and says, "Do you want to come back? Do you want to come back to the house with me with these two?" And I'm like, "No, Morg, no, I really don't. Not in my wildest dreams. I want to go home." So we go home. I thought Morg was going home. The final word that we had on it was, "Morg, we're all going home. This is a bad idea, Morg. Do you agree?" "Yes, Joel." "Right, cool. Let's go home." We'll get in the taxis and go home. 2 nights later, we're at football. Says, "We had a near miss there on the weekend, didn't we?" Morg says, "Oh no."
You're popping that up, are you? You're popping that up.
He says, "Oh no." I says, "What do you mean? Oh no." He says, "Oh yeah. I went home with her." I says, "No, you didn't. Morg. Don't lie to me."
The gargoyles.
Alright. He says, I was like, "No, you didn't." He's like, "Yeah, and a stumpy little friend as well." I was like, "No." I was like, "What happened?" Obviously, we'll keep it. We won't enter that. But
No, we don't want to go there.
But fast forward about 4 months, and a Facebook post goes up that.
Oh, he's mentioning the Facebook post as well.
Summer Luke's she's gone. She's gone to her pregnancy scan. We're counting the days back. So I mean, I haven't ever looked her up. I'm pretty sure I saw her on Facebook somewhere, but she doesn't claim Morg's the dad. But the dates are very close. So
you know what? I think because obviously being the main culprit, of course, I was very, very concerned when I saw that and had to retrace my steps a little bit. And I think I was like a good month out or so.
I know, but you seem to be convinced and telling me that you wrapped it up almost every time I brought it up. But it was good for a little while longer. Well, you were sweating for a little while.
That was a close call, Morgan.
Oh my God. You would not believe. Sleepless nights and all sorts.
That's exactly what you would have had if it was yours.
Like, honestly, I should have gone into fucking rehab for being an alcoholic at that point. Like, I was seriously considering making serious life changes. I could be sitting here as a Buddhist right now.
We had planned an intervention for you, but for some reason it didn't come to pass. But
I think that tends to go through one ear and out the other with me, though.
Yeah, too right.
Right, anyway, moving on. Cian, do you have anything?
Oi. Where do I start, Morgan? I think the one that springs to mind, Morgan, is the opposite to the last story. It was when you Stuart and I travelled to Gotland. For those of you who don't know, Gotland is an island in the North Sea in between Sweden and Finland, and it was a lads weekend. So we got on the train. We had train beers. We got on a boat, sailed to Gotland, went for a few beers, intending on going to a club. This club was quite exclusive. We tried for a while to get into this club, and then sat in the bar waiting for our turn to get in the club. Morgan decided to have a sneezing fit, and he just would not stop sneezing. And bearing in mind this was last September when COVID was pretty rife, and one sneeze was embarrassing enough, but Morgan just did not stop sneezing for 20 minutes. Just proper snotty sneezes. He went to the bathroom, got some tissue, and snot everywhere.
Oh, fucking hell. It wasn't even a drink either.
It just came out of nowhere. But then to make it worse, instead of saying, listen, lads, I'm going to go home, you enjoy the rest of your night, Stuart had to take him home. And Stuart had to...
back.
He got lost on his way back. Stuart had to take him home because he couldn't find his way home, sniffling all the way home. Stuart had to tuck him into bed. And then fair dues to Stuart, he came back and kept me company. We went to a nightclub. But that's another story, the nightclub, Stuart. Save that for another day.
We'll definitely say that another time, yeah. Well, there you go, Joel. Look, even when I'm not completely paralytic, I still make an arse of myself.
Full of snot.
You are actually the heaviest, lightest fellow I've ever met in my life. Because you're definitely about 5 stone soaking wet, but it seems when you get drunk and then you fall on the floor, you turn into like 20 stone man.
Yeah,
your time trying to shift you. Fuck.
4 drinks, 2 shots. That's what it does to me. That's what it does. Well, look, hey, we're going to wrap things up there. Cian, absolute pleasure to have you, mate.
Thank you for having me. Good fun.
Hope to have you back in the near future.
When we win the league.
When you win the league, and then you and Stu can really lock horns with one another. Because I was a bit disappointed. I thought you were going to be a bit more aggressive. Or
no.
you're I don't know. You're quite modest for a football fan.
For a football fan, I will hold my hands up when my team do terribly. It makes for bad podcast entertainment, I know. But, next time, maybe Hammarby and Djurgården will just add a derby, and I'll get involved in that because there's no VAR in Swedish football.
There's no grass either.
I know, right?
Oh, 3G pictures.
Oh, God, yeah, we can have a moan about that in the next one. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for tuning in. You can find this episode and all the other episodes on YouTube and Spotify and Buzzsprout. Just look up The Football Booth and they'll all be there waiting for you. Boys, pleasure as always. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you next week. Hej då!
Hej då!